Akaniambia hotel hakuna.
Harrison Bagwasi never imagined that one day he would board a plane, let alone fly out of the country.
Job yenyewe sijaiona.
But on March 13th, 2025, there he was, seated in a Boeing aircraft bound for Mauritius, a land of breathtaking beaches and endless opportunities, or so he believed. Two dreams packaged into one, traveling abroad and securing a prestigious job at a five-star hotel. With Mauritius being a visa-free country for Kenyan nationals, his exit was seamless, his entry into the island effortless. Everything seemed perfect, until it wasn't. The moment his feet touched Mauritian soil, the dream began to unravel. At the airport, there were no hotel representatives holding a placard with his name, no official welcoming him to his new workplace. Instead, a stranger, an unfamiliar face, was waiting. A Nigerian man who introduced himself only as Colonel. Colonel was the link provided by one
Watu wa commission after visa, kujeni, niko na kazi zenu.
Maria Kamunge, better known online as Rish, the director of Trustpin verified agency, a company Harrison had trusted with his dreams. A company that had promised him stability, security, and a future. With no other option, Harrison followed Colonel. Their first stop, an unknown joint in the city, where Colonel bought him a meal. Over dinner, they talked about life back in Kenya. The contract Harrison had signed before leaving Nairobi was clear. His job came with free meals and accommodation, a proper placement in a reputable hotel. But as the night unfolded, the picture blurred. Colonel led him away from the bustling streets into a dimly lit area. Soon they stood before a massive hall divided into several rooms, makeshift partitions, not hotel suites. A far cry from the luxurious expectations Harrison had envisioned. Colonel gestured toward one of the rooms. "You can stay here for the night," he offered. It wasn't what Harrison had anticipated, but after the long journey, he needed rest. As he settled into the unfamiliar space, he heard the sound of footsteps fading. Colonel was leaving, accompanied by an unidentified woman. A gnawing uncertainty settled in. He was in a foreign country, alone, at the mercy of strangers. Yet despite the uneasy feeling in his gut, Harrison could barely sleep. Not from fear, but from excitement, clinging to the belief that tomorrow, his real journey would begin. The morning after his arrival, Harrison Bagwasi met with Colonel once again at the same restaurant where they had shared dinner the previous evening. The air was heavy with anticipation, but what followed shattered any lingering hope he had left. The Nigerian dropped a bombshell. There were no hotelier jobs.
Akaniambia hotel hakuna.
The promised opportunity, the dream that had brought Harrison to Mauritius, was a lie. Instead, Colonel offered him a construction job.
Nikaambia sijaifanya hata huko, sijawahi. Nikaambia so, wewe pigiwa madam, akasema no, madam anasema uko na balance yake ya 60,000. Nikamwambia job yenyewe sijaiona, ndalipa 60 aje. Si hata nione job ndio hii, tumalizane.
He also told me that he would not be willing to give me his room to sleep in again, as he was expecting a visitor, Bagwasi recalled. As night fell on March 14th, 2025, Colonel gave Bagwasi an ultimatum: return to Kenya or fend for himself. Left with no real choice, Bagwasi agreed to leave but requested help with accommodation for just one more night. He was linked to yet another Nigerian national, where he found temporary shelter. In the midst of his misfortune, he stumbled upon several other Kenyans victims of the same deception. Their bleak reality painted a horrifying picture of the hidden underbelly of overseas job scams. The lives they were living were not what Bagwasi wanted for himself. Determined to escape this nightmare, he used what little money he had left, contacted his sister for a financial top-up, and booked the next available flight back to Nairobi. Bagwasi was fortunate, others were not. 3 other Kenyans, Emmanuel Otieno, Michael Okello and Josephat Sagwe, were left stranded, unable to afford return tickets. With no assistance from Trustpin verified agencies, their fate was sealed. They were deported. Bundled into the backseats of an aircraft headed for Nairobi, they faced not only financial ruin, but also the grim reality that their deportation status would affect any future plans to travel out of Kenya. Their story was just the tip of the iceberg.
So nilirudi nikawaambia nataka pesa yangu na wananiambia ati hawezi rudisha pesa.
Cynthia Atieno had vowed never to seek employment abroad again. The torment she endured while working in the Gulf in 2022 left her shaken, determined to rebuild her life in Kenya. But then an advertisement appeared on her TikTok feed, one that would change her life in ways she never imagined. Trustpin verified agency, a recruitment firm promising lucrative jobs overseas, presented an offer too tempting to ignore. Despite her previous experiences,
Nilifanya process zote.
the idea of financial stability lured her in. By July 2024, Cynthia had paid a deposit of 200,000 Kenya shillings, believing she had secured a house manager position in Poland. Her hopes soared. This time, she thought, things would be different. The waiting game begins. Days turned into weeks, then weeks into months. Silence. 3 months after her payment, there was still no word from the agency. Anxiously, she reached out. The response she received was not what she had expected. There are no vacancies in Poland, they said. Choose another country. With no other choice, Cynthia settled for Luxembourg, a fresh start, a different path, or so she thought. Her excitement was short-lived. When Trustpin verified agency finally issued her travel documents, something was off. Instead of a work visa, they had provided her with a tourist visa. Confused and alarmed, Cynthia questioned the agency. Their response: "Don't worry, we know how things work." They advised her to present herself at the Luxembourg embassy in Westland, Nairobi. There, she would convince the officials of her intentions. As Cynthia examined the documents, she realized something even more disturbing. Her personal details were completely different from what she had provided. Panicked, she contacted the agency. They dismissed her concerns, claiming that embassy officials hardly scrutinized details. Confidence, they assured her, was all she needed. On the day of her visa interview, she frantically tried to correct the errors in her documents. In doing so, she arrived late. The result? An 8,000 Kenya shillings fine from the embassy. And worse, she failed the interview. "They told me they were not sure I would return to Kenya once I left for Luxembourg," Cynthia recalled. Adding to the humiliation, the hotel listed in her travel documents had no record of her booking. She had been set up for failure from the start. Cynthia demanded a refund from Trustpin verified agency. Her pleas fell on deaf ears. Determined, she confronted them at their Nairobi offices. But what happened next was beyond her worst fears. "I was manhandled, assaulted, and thrown out of their office," she recalled. Her cries for justice went unheard. The money she had saved from her painful years in the Gulf, gone. Stolen by the very people who had promised her a better future.
Cynthia Atieno's story is not just hers alone. It echoes the cries of countless Kenyans who have fallen victim to fraudulent job agencies, losing their hard-earned savings and dignity in the process. With police investigations into Trustpin verified agency now underway, Cynthia, like many others, can only hope for justice. But for now, she remains another statistic in a growing list of victims deceived by a dream that turned into a nightmare. If you or someone you know has fallen victim to fraudulent job agencies, don't stay silent. Report, share, and spread awareness, because no one should have to suffer what Cynthia and countless others have endured, Stay informed, stay vigilant.